We're going live. And we are live. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hi.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, we'll be starting the crypto gaming panel right now. This is the last session of the day. Right now, we have teams. We have Robbie from Australia. We have Alex from Vietnam. We have Viktor from Mountain View, and I am in San Francisco. So we have a real virtual conference. So today, again, we'll be talking about a newer category called crypto gaming. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So we have Robbie, who was a co-founder of Fuel Games. They were actually one of the first ones to ship a game right after CryptoKitties, one of the most well-designed. We have Alex from Axie Infinity. It's actually one of the most well-designed games as well. And we have Viktor, who every crypto game seems to want to partner with Trustwallet. So I'm interested to hear more about it. But maybe we can start with a quick introduction of just more about your background, your experience, what made you actually want to start working on a crypto gaming related project. So maybe Robbie, you can start.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try and be pretty quick, but had been interested in the blockchain space for a long time. The first thing I wanted to do was build a decentralized derivatives exchange, but that's legally way too messy, especially from Australia. So then in December, we saw CryptoKitties coming out, and as someone who has been, done a lot of gaming in the past, I'm like, this is actually crazy that the first real use case of the blockchain outside of financial applications could be gaming. And so we sort of built Etherbots pretty quickly, and designed it with being like the first real sort of multiplayer battling experience in mind. And yeah, it was a big success, and now we're also taking it on to sort of a couple future games as well. But I'll pass on to Alex to explain his background.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. I'm Aleksander. I'm the CEO of Axie Infinity. I actually come from a competitive gaming background, so I was streaming on Twitch as well. But yeah, when it comes to the competitive gaming, I played nationally in Warcraft 3 for the Norwegian team, Dota 1 also national team. Top 200 player in Dota 2. And when I saw that CryptoKitties was released, I was actually doing a deep dive in cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, so it kind of aligned perfectly with my interest. So I was the first person to ever stream actually CryptoKitties, and kind of went from there, started involving myself really hard in the community, became a moderator, and met a lot of interesting people there. When it came to light that sadly CryptoKitties was not really what we expected. It was very limited when it comes to gameplay. A little bit disappointed, started to look for people who were interested in creating something a little bit better. So kind of went from there with Chung, who is our CTO and founder of Axie Infinity. He recruited me into Axie Infinity quite quickly, actually. I was working for another game studio at the time, so chose to work for Axie Infinity, and so far it's going really great. We're just about to release our battling system, but yeah, we can talk a little bit more about that later. Nice to be here, and yeah, Viktor, tell us all about the Trustwallet.
Oh yeah, totally. So my story is pretty different, I guess. I got myself randomly into crypto just because I realized I have some Coinbase account and some Ether, and then I was like, oh, crazy. Now I want to get some tokens and kind of learn what it is. And then since then, I realized the market was kind of empty in terms of the products you can use, especially open source. And since you think of crypto as decentralized world, every product should be open source and accessible to everyone in the world. And I realized there's a huge need to build decentralized wallet that works on a client. So you don't need to have any backend in order to actually interact with the blockchain. And that's the reason why I started working on Trustwallet around 9-10 months ago, and then switched doing full-time around like 5 months ago. And my goal was always like build a product that's really easy to use for the regular users. And it all started out as Ethereum wallet plus ERC20 tokens. And then later on, I realized that the gaming and also the different dApps coming out on Ethereum blockchain, and it requires to have a browser. And so in order to actually build a browser, it makes it, you need to build interaction with the wallet itself because you need to sign transactions. And this is still a confusing part for the most people. why you need to have a browser inside the wallet. That's I'm trying to explain to the users. And that's why like all the people who are playing mobile games, they use a wallet to interact with different apps. Yeah, that's my background. Alan, you want to continue?
Cool. So since this is a crypto game panel, I guess it's good to define what is a crypto game. What are the elements where the crypto or blockchain could additionally provide? Why blockchain, that kind of parts? And yeah, or just, what is a crypto game? Yeah, maybe, Robbie, do you want to start? Or?
Yeah, easy. So a crypto game is basically, ideally, a game which is indistinguishable from any other video game, except for the fact that you have true ownership of in-game assets. I think that's probably the definitional characteristic. So the traditional conceptualization of it in CryptoKitties was that these in-game items were called non-fungible tokens, which just means they're a unique token as opposed to something like an ERC20, which can be stacked and can't be uniquely identified. If I sent 2 ERC20s to an address and sent them both out again, which one was which. But if I sent 2 of an in-game item, even if they were the same item, you'd always be able to track which one was which because they were unique. And the benefits of crypto gaming, actually, I'm not going to, I've defined it, so I'll stick to the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I also kind of want to add the fact that things are provably scarce is hugely important when it comes to crypto gaming, that you can actually print a limited edition run of anything. For example, in our game, in our pre-sale, we had you could redeem some Origin Axies. And when you redeem them, there was a specific chance that 33% of them would get, for example, a mystic part, and these parts will never get released again. So at that point, it will be like, I see in the chat that there are people who are mentioning Magic the Gathering, and it's quite similar to that. Black Lotus card, we actually talked about that in the beginning of in the broadcast, or before you guys were here. But yeah, when that is actually provably scarce, that there are only, for example, I think there are 1,100 Black Lotuses in existence. Naturally, when the game gets popular, the demand will skyrocket for that. So, and also the usability of the asset, of course, is important. But we can get more into that eventually, I think.
Yeah, and also another thing is about blockchain games. In order to actually access the dApp itself, you need to have a private key. And by the private key, I mean the wallet. So every person who would be interacting with CryptoKitties, Axies, or Etherbots, they would need to have a wallet. It could be either done via MetaMask on Google Chrome, or you can use Trustwallet on mobile. So that's like how all these users interacting with all these apps via the browser.
Cool. But since we're mentioning a lot of things about CryptoKitties, maybe Robbie and Alex can talk about what do you think CryptoKitties did well, and what you guys find some other opportunities are there additionally, and yeah, we can talk more about what you guys have built.
Yeah, I think maybe I can start here, since I was pretty involved in the community for a very long time. I'm not sure about you, Robbie, but I was, as I said, I was a moderator, and maybe I traded, or actually earned, I think about 170x of my initial investment in CryptoKitties.
Right.
Not was a big one. It was actually started with 0.2. But even so, I think what they did right, they managed to harness the kind of collectible frenzy in people. So people thought that this could be a great and brand new thing, right? It's the first real successful application on the Ethereum blockchain. So it can be really, it can, I think, have collectible value in the future as well, even if the use cases are very limited. Personally, I didn't really much like the whole breeding mechanic. I think it's a little bit boring from a collectibles perspective, because you can make multiple cards or multiple cats with the same kind of traits. So you actually reduce their value every time that you breed them, because you create more cats with similar kind of traits as yourself. But even so, a lot of people like that as well. And the whole fancy thing is also kind of cute, where you can make limited edition fancies now. So I think that they did that pretty good when it comes to collectible standpoints as well, when they introduced limited fancies. Yeah, I'm not sure you have different experiences, Robbie.
Yeah. So that was a pretty good appraisal. As a gaming platform, I wouldn't call CryptoKitty a game. I'd call it a collectible experience. And I think perhaps people called it a game at first because it was something which was most akin to that on the blockchain because it was the first of its kind, apart from, say, like CryptoPunks, or there was the rare Pepes not on Ethereum way back in like 14. So I'd say that you saw more gameplay in things like Etherbots and Axie Infinity, where you can have multiplayer battling in order to redeem in-game tokens, some sort of user interactivity, which is not necessarily requisite for a game, but I think it indicates it. And I think that the next level is, because it's such a new industry, now it has to take the step to move to real games, which are indistinguishable from the kind of AAA video games you'd see normally, except that they have all these advantages of then being immutable and provably scarce, so that Valve can't arbitrarily trade lock your items, and you'll always have guarantees over like the probability of that item dropping or how many will ever be in existence. As soon as you can have that back end seamlessly indistinguishable from the same really fun games you play for just their games experience, that is when crypto gaming is going to take off for the mainstream.
Cool. Viktor, do you want to have anything to add on, or just? But yeah, I think you guys been doing extremely great job on actually designing in-game economy, or designing, I guess, rarity for your own game, or in the sense you kind of been designing the utility values of its own non-fungible token. Unlike some other projects where it's only breeding, you guys are actually thinking about how to make these non-fungible tokens to actually be usable in a different way. So again, love to quickly have you guys share about more of that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, so a really brief explanation. Etherbots, our first game, which came out in February. You could make robots from custom parts. Each was an ERC721. And then you could use those parts to battle other people with a set of moves, which were securely stored on the blockchain using a commit reveal scheme. Then you could level up each part. Certain moves would beat certain other moves. And you could win in-game items via battling. And we solved the problem in a kind of sort of clumsy but novel way of how you prevent inflation of assets if you're rewarding them in-game, by actually meaning that you have to pay a price for every battle. Because obviously, if you have a mathematical relationship with something which is zero, the price of everything is going to tend to zero. And so that's how we got around it in that situation. But now with our new games, we're, I think, moving towards much more serious in-game utility too, where they essentially encode the same functionality that you'd have in normal in-game items in a AAA game.
Alex?
Yeah, when it comes to Axie Infinity, we are moving in a kind of similar way to where you guys are, but we have experience points in our game, which are kind of putting a lock on the amount of breeds that people can do with their Axies. So you can breed Axies as well to kind of explore the genetic system, but it's going to be a choice for the players. Either they can use their experience to breed, or you can use your experience points to level up your Axie itself. So every Axie has levels from 1 to 10, and they can also have different parts which you can level them up as well. So when you win a ranked battle, which is coming out later in July, you're going to be able to gain experience points. And if you're then kind of using all your experience points to breed, you're naturally going to be losing more battles. You can't get enough experience points maybe to level up. So it will kind of regulate itself, but we're constantly looking at different kind of ways to do this right. So it's really fascinating as well. I think it's a cool way to kind of improve your tokens. I think it's really important when people sink time into a game, you should be able to see that you improve your asset instead of actually reducing its value like you do in CryptoKitties, for example. Every time you do a breed with a cat, you're effectively reducing its cooldown and you don't get much in return except for like you get a new asset, but it doesn't really make the value of the cat you have any better, just worse pretty much. So we don't really like that approach. So we're trying to iterate on that.
Yeah, also on the wallet side, we currently exploring a few ideas for collectibles and how it could be used for the wallet itself, right? Because we're not a game, we neither like adapt in a way. And so we actually want to use collectibles as part of the feature set as a utility. So imagine this, we can issue some tokens that will allow anyone to use as a theme, as a background or a sticker. right? So you want to enable dark mode in the mobile app, you would need to ask somebody to give you some token that will enable that feature. So that could be the utility that will have really good gamification. So you can actually either get it or buy it, or if you refer somebody to the wallet, if they install the app, you get some collectibles you can use to enable specific features. So I think this is a really good way to gamify experience in general. And it's similar to like Telegram or WeChat, where they use different type of backgrounds. So you can use those as collectibles. So you buy a collectible, you apply it as a background for things. And as you imagine, maybe wallets would become messengers as well. So you can utilize those collectibles as part of the messenger. So you acquire some sticker, and you can use that sticker to send to different friends. So there's lots of things that could be done in general for the wallets as well, not just games.
Yeah, since we're kind of on this topic, maybe we can talk about like what are some of the, I guess, technology infrastructure and where you think it's fitting for this crypto game, I guess, ecosystem. I mean, I think wallet is definitely really one part of it. So, maybe we can start with, Robbie, on what kind of technology kind of things you guys been building internally, and then we can move up, go up.
Yeah. So essentially, we built a couple of months earlier in the year, and we learned a lot from that experience after shipping it to consumers and seeing what worked for them and what didn't. And so we decided to abstract all that learning into a platform by which any major game publisher could easily port their title onto the blockchain, and with which we could also make future games really, really simply, because we wanted to do it in an extensible and future-proof way. So the main aspects of technology we learned from was, I guess you can divide it into sort of centralized integration of the blockchain and the blockchain technology itself, the smart contracts. The smart contracts, obviously, we learned heaps from, and that integrates a lot of economics. And on the other side, we created something called the Apollo platform, which actually acts as an intermediary caching layer between the blockchain and the players, so that you aren't like overrunning nodes in order to make calls to the blockchain. And you can also sort of throttle things in a way which makes way more sense for users. So it's essentially non-distinguishable. And you can even sort of lock them into your account, so you don't even have to be logged into your address at the moment of playing in order to register that you own those particular tokens. And then the really cool thing that we've been working on is obviously Project Ansible, our generalized state channel implementation, because at the moment it's not feasible to have on-transaction gameplay on the main chain. And so there's been a few different solutions, and we think state channels is going to be one of the most awesome ones, which we're sort of building and trying out first in our card game and the new Ether bots.
Cool. So Alex, you guys been actually implementing different potential scaling solutions as well as developing your own technology. I also recall you guys are also working on the new kind of ERC standard. We'd love to learn more in general.
Yeah. So our CTO Trung is actually very talented developer. Super lucky to have him as the kind of person who's pushing the project forward. He is helping out creating a new kind of composable standard, the ERC 998, which I'm sure a lot of people know about here. But in our game, just to be specific, for those of you who don't know what it is, it means that a token can own another token, or more specifically, an ERC 721 can own another ERC 721. So in our game, we are introducing something that is called terrariums, and that's basically where the houses of the Axies live. So to say it in a normal way, a house can own the items within the house. So the ERC 721 terrarium can own different kind of ERC 721 items. So eventually we're going to introduce a marketplace where, for example, different kind of artists can create the assets within our marketplace, and these assets can be bought, and then you can customize your house. They can be in the house of the Axie or the terrarium, and then you can sell the terrarium, for example, to other kind, or gift them off even. So it's quite a cool feature. And when it comes to scaling solution, we're actually partnering with Loom Network, using their SDK to do that kind of the second layer scaling solution, instead of going the way that Etherbots are going with state channels. So what we are looking at is using Ethereum as the base layer, where the security is, everything needs to be transferred there. And then all the battling will be done on the second layer scaling solution. They're using something called Zombie Chain, or that's the first iteration of it, which is coming really soon. So when that happens, all the Axies will get transferred to the sidechain, and then the battles will be free. The feeding of the Axies will be free. Everything will be free, and then it will be secured by Plasma. And sometimes you will actually have to transfer them back, or they will have to be synchronized with the main chain. So it's quite exciting. A lot of good things happening, I think, in the scaling. Of course, really important that it happens, because nobody wants to play a blockchain game. Or I think actually it's time maybe we stop calling it blockchain game. It's actually a game secured by the blockchain. But nobody wants to play anything where you have to pay a transaction fee for anything. So we're kind of trying to avoid that as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. Viktor, I think that since we also were talking about standards earlier, I think currently Trust supports 721, and and there's also, again, most of the games all want to talk to you. So what are some of the things they wanted to have Trust to implement as well from the technology?
Yeah, totally. So I think support for collectibles, it's been around on Trustwallet for the past like 3 months or so. And the reason, because I wanted to see my CryptoKitties inside my wallet, like straight away in the first screen, pretty much. And so I think I'm really bullish on crypto gaming in general, but it's going to take time until it's going to take off. But in general, like things we're trying to provide to all these developers that building games is a few things, right? We're working currently with Loom Network to have our SDK integrated with their own Loom SDK. So that's going to allow anyone to build games without caring about private keys at all. And so this is one of the biggest challenges, that in order to play a game, you need to have a private key, right? And every game you would play, you would need to create a private key or import, and that's lots of hassle for the regular users. So instead, the solution would be to have one wallet or a few wallets that you use on a daily basis, and the Loom SDK would be working directly with your wallet. So in order to actually start the game, you just sign transaction once, and then you just feel free to use it for as long as you need. And then whenever you need to claim some specific asset, you can use that to interact with your wallet to tell like, oh, here's my wallet address. I'm going to confirm that I own it, and then you send it to that wallet. Or if in order to pay for things, or like Ether or any type of token, you can use your wallet to sign transaction natively on your phone. And in that sense, it's secure, and it's pretty flawless, because you don't need to interact with any private keys. And then any game that's going to be built will use the same wallet that you already have. So we're trying to work on UX part for this. And then this is mostly for dApp to dApp, native dApps integration. But at the same time, we have support for deferred deep linking that allows anyone to build a dApp and then hook them up from regular browsers into mobile dApp browsers on Trustwallet. And so that's something we have currently available for anyone to use. And it's also open source. Anyone who wants to join, feel free to join our GitHub as well.
Cool. So another topic, since we're kind of talking about deep linking, and that's kind of more similar to referrals and distribution kind of part. I think both Etherbot and Axie Infinity did a very special way to do distribution or trading assets as a way to get more widespread. I think that's also one of the benefits of blockchain. Maybe you guys can quickly talk about what was the experience doing that, how you guys ensure a lot of you guys have like believers of the platform, etc. on the distribution trading part.
Yeah. So I guess it's a question about economics and distribution. So the way we structured the Etherbot's initial sale of robots was we wanted to essentially align the incentives of us as developers and the community as players financially as much as possible. Because essentially what came out of this actually was really interesting, which is that we decided we never wanted to compete with the player marketplace. So whenever we sell items initially, they like while we're selling them, we'll be able to balance them and they won't be tradable. And then as soon as we make them tradable, we will never sell them again, because we don't want to have that. Then you have this bizarre system of arbitrage where like either we're cheaper than the marketplace and people come to us, and so we're taking money off our players, or the marketplace is cheaper than us, in which case we're literally serving no purpose. So like I think we want to be really transparent in the way we want to create value for our players, which is by making an awesome game and also not by competing with them in the marketplace, I think is one of the main ethoses of game design. The other thing, obviously, conscious to be considering is that anytime you want to have in-game rewards, and this was something we really struggled with back in like February, January, when there weren't really existing models of how blockchain economies should work for gaming, is that you have to figure out a way how you can reward the user for playing the game without making the value of those assets drop to zero. And so as I talked a bit about earlier, in Etherbots, we had like a small fee you had to pay for every game you play. And obviously the gas price does a little bit, but it's arbitrary, right? You can set it at whatever you want. And so you have people paying various different amounts. You can argue that like time is a sort of value. And like, I would agree in some ways. I think you can create a certain class of assets which you reward people with for time, but ultimately things can be botted. And you can't create something which is financially secure, which is attempting to value time in terms of some sort of monetary equation. But yeah, I'd be really interested in hearing Aleksander's view as well from sort of Axie's perspective.
Yeah, so when we started our pre-sale, we had it structured in a way that it rewarded the earliest people. They got a little bit of a discount rate. And the way that worked out was it was pretty high at the beginning, then it kind of evened out a little bit. And in the end stages of the pre-sale, it was almost the same price, quite a little bit more expensive than it was at the beginning. But the way we incentivized people to do that was, as I mentioned, early stage, to have something that was truly unique, which would never be ever released later in the game again. So all the assets that were sold, they had the origin tag, which is never going to be released again. And when you purchased an origin Axie, you had the chance to open up a mystic part as well. And we had the referral system as well, so you could refer other players to the game. And then if you referred 5 players, you would be able to open up a special kind of mystic box, basically. But yeah, we are also looking at distribution when it comes to later stages in the game, where we have to introduce new body parts into the system, right? So that we have a little bit more of a genetic diversity, so that people can't create the similar kind of Axies because everyone is unique. So what we're doing there, we're looking at kind of a seasonal system where we have an egg shop where we are selling different kind of eggs. And to announce the egg shop, we have had our promotional auction where we have our artists create 3 unique style Axies, custom made, and they have one part which is custom designed as well from him. So we auctioned them off in a normal fashion. They actually sold for about 6 ETH per, so about $10,000 in total. But yeah, once those were sold, the new season began and we had new eggs being released. But the problem that you mentioned, where we don't want to compete with the player market, has been such a pretty big deal for us that we actually have decided to shut down the egg shop for a little while until we have released our battling system, so that we get like more upwards pressure from the market. So we're always trying to fine tune that a little bit. And I think it's truly important for all kind of aspiring game developers that you don't try to pigeonhole yourself into something where things should be so decentralized that you can't make any changes. Whenever you're creating a game, you need to change things, tweak things, so that it's for the best, as long as you're being transparent with the community, with what is happening. So I think that's the main thing that's important to remember.
I actually have a quick question to follow up. Like I see quite a few players actually jumping out from CryptoKitties and going to Etherbots and Axie Infinity. Can you tell more about why, or who are the users that are jumping to the different?
Yeah. Do you want to begin, Robbie?
After you.
Oh, yeah. When it comes to our strategy, we have been very involved in the CryptoKitties community from the beginning. As I mentioned early on in the panel here, I was a moderator. We have quite, I should say, some influence in there. So when we go somewhere, we kind of bring people with us because people are trusted. They trust us. If you have integrity, right, then you can... If you go somewhere, people will follow pretty much. And then also, if it turns out that the game is good, that you can prove that you have game design, the design of the characters is good, eventually it kind of snowballs a little bit. But we wouldn't say that. I think people coming to CryptoKitties is a good step one for the space because the brand is so huge, right? So kind of they go there and then they realize it's just a market. Maybe I would like something more. Maybe breeding is not enough. I would like to improve my token. They kind of explore the space. The way I look at it is almost like if CryptoKitties is Bitcoin, then we want to be Ethereum, right? We want to take what they did, make it better and smarter and all that kind of things.
Right. Yeah. So I'd say a couple of things. One is we have a couple of cool things we do for our players. So we've actually just created with our 2 new games ways to reuse the same tokens you have in Etherbot, the same robot parts, and you actually get valuable tradable items in our new games that are like scarce and exclusive to people who had ownership in the previous game. So I think we kind of demonstrate our loyalty to our player base, and we're also showcasing the beautiful thing about crypto games, which is that they're entirely interoperable. We're going to have like hackathons and stuff where you can use existing NFTs. For instance, I could build an Etherbot which airdrops owners of like an Axie Infinity a cool Axie-looking Etherbot, if they'd let me make an Axie-looking Etherbot. So the awesome thing is that like games all have their life cycles, but in here you can create everlasting value, and not only that, but you don't have to be the one creating that value. Third-party platforms and open source communities, which is what in general technology has been trending toward, particularly from people who are rejecting a lot of monolithic technological structures, are shifting towards. So I think it really represents the future of gaming in a lot of ways.
And another side topic, I remember the most expensive CryptoKitty is actually using Trust platform, right? Is that correct, Viktor?
Yeah, that's correct. I think it was sold for $142,000 or so on one of the donations that they did a few months ago. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how much people willing to pay for this.
Yeah. So Trustwallet is it's an open source wallet, right? So, but I remember seeing almost all games are somehow partnering with Trust in general. So again, Trust in a way became one of the game discovery platform. Maybe it's not the only usage, but that kind of become one of the main usage. Would you mind sharing more about that part?
Yeah, so in our browser, we have a feature to list different dApps, and we try to show whichever is available right now on the Ethereum network, and you can probably use it and useful. So I think the biggest use case is usually exchanges for the most users. And recently we've been listing lots of different games at the same time. And then we even got in trouble with Apple for telling us if we're not going to remove any games, they're going to remove Trustwallet from the App Store. And so we had to deal with that. And in the result, we had to remove all the game dApps in our list at all because they're against this pretty much. And so we're still going to fight with them, and we'll find a way how to actually allow crypto games for Apple. And we just need to find ways how we're going to integrate with their in-app purchase system. And that's something for all the community to figure it out because they're the biggest centralized server at the moment for all the gaming.
Vitalik also have a tweet about Apple's centralization. I think was it last week?
Yeah. I mean, there's benefits to App Store in general, just because they filter out all the bad apps. It makes it easier than using Google Play because there is so much scam going on all the time. And even people list different wallets like Mither Wallet, and people download it, give up their private keys, and Google doesn't do anything about that. And if you tell them to report, it takes weeks in order for them to actually remove any fake app. So I think it's good that App Store has that kind of moderation, but that's something for us to figure it out how to build in a blockchain. So we use community in order to validate specific dApp or smart contract, if it's something you can trust or not.
Cool. Alex, since we're kind of also on this topic-wise, I think Axie Infinity has done an extremely great job on the community end. How do you have other people to find out about your game or Axie Infinity in general?
Yeah, so I was actually waiting for this question because community building is something that we take really, really serious. We think that having a game as a service is actually what you need to succeed in this kind of space, not only probably as a blockchain game, but in a game in general. People have expectations of finding an active Discord server. I'm going to link our Discord server actually in the chat right now. So if you guys want to join there and see, we have had different kind of art competitions. We're gamifying our community in a way that's quite unique. So we actually have had a person named Cloud White, or his nickname is Cloud White Whale. He actually created his own rap in the Axie Infinity universe, which is quite unique. So we're really happy in the way that we are working with our community. Always try to answer the questions that people have. That if you are worried about something, try to be really transparent about everything that we do, because we think it's important that people feel that they see the people who are behind the project. If you don't, how else are you going to trust them? I know people talk about trustlessness a lot in the blockchain community, but you still want to see who is behind the project before you put your money into something. At least that is for me.
All right, Robbie, I think Etherbots have done an extremely great job as well. And I think you also partner with quite a few different partners too. Love to learn more about how you guys are letting people know about just the games in general. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're going down for our next games a relatively conventional game marketing approach, since our goal is, with Etherbots, the main consumers were people already in crypto, and that included a lot of speculators. But as everyone know, you need ordinary players in order to build the ecosystem. And I think that that's where gaming has so much potential to bring to crypto in onboarding those people. So we had a bunch of sort of, I guess, traditional marketing made for our new games as well. I can probably share a bit of an exclusive sneak peek at the trailer. It's unlisted on YouTube, but there's here we go, for the new game. I think that should work.
Okay, that's a link, right? Cool.
That's, yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome. Should be good to check out later. Yeah. But since we're kind of in this topic on bringing more users into the blockchain ecosystem, I personally think, crypto game, where if you look at all the past technology platform, it's always gaming to be the one that brings most people in. If you look back to the internet, if you look at to internet 2.0, if you look at mobiles, it's always been one of the ones that are bringing more users in. And all the products you guys have been developing in a way is also bringing more users into the blockchain ecosystem. So it is also I'm kind of biased, but I do think crypto games is the killer application for blockchain at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Yeah, it sounds often when I get this kind of, when we start talking about this kind of thing, I get really passionate, because I truly believe that Axie Infinity actually can spearhead the adoption. I know it sounds really strange, but I mean, I wouldn't be working in this space if I didn't think that we could push it forward. And Etherbots as well, probably. I mean, different kind of games all working together. We need to take the more serious actors, work together to find a way to push this mainstream, because one party alone maybe can't do it. But if everyone is creating something that's truly valuable and not more of a Ponzi style game, then people will start taking this a little bit serious. We talked about this barely before the panel, actually. And I think that people might be have gotten burned before by joining something idle game. Oh, what is this kind of thing? I just put in my money and then get money back. I mean, that's not a game, in my opinion. That's just a Ponzi scheme. So people need to be more careful, do some more research, and I think people are getting smarter as well. So it's really important that we try to educate the users that are coming into the space and work together to kind of push it all forward.
Yeah, I think I'd add on, educating users is important. I think even the easiest solution in this space is going to be making something which is just obviously a really high quality game. Because if you have that, you don't need to educate people about why the items should be valuable or whatever. It's a game. You're playing it for fun, and it has the side benefit of having all these decentralized backends, which, games like Axie Infinity and Etherbots are moving towards those stages. So it's really awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually, when it comes to, I like that, but I'm not sure we are there quite yet. I think, maybe in the future. But yeah, so working with Viktor, for example, Axie Infinity, we really wanted to do that to get our game integrated with Trustwallet as well, because we think that it's really important to kind of find the people who are creating good stuff in this space so that we don't have to do everything. because I don't think we should have to make a wallet. I don't think we should have to make a scaling solution. I think we, as game developers, should focus on building a great product so that the people who come in can do that. And then all the other smart people that are in this community, in this space, they can focus on what they are great at. Instead of 100,000 people working on the same problem, we could maybe like kind of diversify a little bit at least. So I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with Alex on this. And I noticed in the space, lots of people trying to build their own blockchains, and they trying to split up and going like into different directions. But instead, I think every team should be focusing on building a small module or application that's going to help the whole community to grow. And that's something that's been missing at the moment. And I'm glad there's lots of game developers that are trying to just polish the experience, build really amazing animations, the game playing, and the gamification itself, and not to focus on scalability solution. That's what I know, like Loom Network is working on, and some other companies. So I think it's great that we kind of see now more people like focusing on specific problem.
Yeah, it's good to see more and more serious interest coming into play. I think with we're getting to the next stages really soon. Another quick thing, I guess, to follow is that since we have a lot of different developers here today, and a lot of them are probably still new to blockchain, you want them to, I guess, recommend them some places to start on developing their own dApp, crypto game, wherever you actually recommend them to. Maybe Viktor, you can start.
Yeah, I think probably Alex or Robbie could go over like what kind of tools they use to actually build the games, and I'll talk about like how do you actually test them afterwards, and what kind of things you use to actually give exposure. Yeah, you guys want to cover that, like how to use Web3 and smart contracts part?
Yeah, I think what you need to build something on the blockchain, of course, you need a talented engineer who can not necessarily great at making smart contracts at the beginning. Solidity, if you know the Solidity part of it, that's good. Or you can actually learn as well. I mean, the way we compare developers, I guess, is if you are a talented musician, you can kind of pick up any different kind of instrument fairly quickly. You just need to like focus on the different kind of parts. And I think that's for coding as well. If you're talented and know code, you can pick up what you need to do. Just try to test it out. Solidity, obviously our CTO Chung is great at it, coding the smart contracts himself. Everything in our site, he's made it too. It's a Web3 and the front end is in Scala, I think right now, but we're creating some, making it in JavaScript. So eventually.
Yeah. Please. Sorry.
No, I should actually say that eventually we're going to be creating the game in Unity, probably. So I guess you guys are working with that right now.
Yeah. So I'm not a Unity developer. My brother and I built Etherbots in Angular and Web3. We coded it all ourselves, and we're still writing some of the smart contracts. We've also hired some Solidity guys who are better than us, but the cool thing is we got some awesome Unity devs, which is where the future of our gaming is going. So I would say that if you want to make a blockchain game, be a game developer or be a Solidity developer, but you don't have to be both. Like either one will do, especially if you find the right fit.
Cool.
Yeah, as a next step, once you build any dApp, I think it's really important to get some traction, and in order to do it, you need to build up the community. You need to reach out to all the wallet providers that are out there. That's going to give you some exposure at the beginning. So there is dApp browsers like Toshi, Cypher, Status. Those are the companies that will help you to get listed, so you get the initial traction or users to test out your dApp. And that will come usually when you already have some product to test out. But at the beginning, when you have something working, you would use MetaMask to interact with your dApp. Or you can use Trustwallet on mobile to test it, like how that's going to look in a responsive design. So that's the tool you would use for the most part. Nice.
So we got about like 6 minutes left. I want to have enough time to answer some of the questions that's been posted. But I think before we officially move on to that section, maybe each of you can share about like, hey, what's coming out next for Trustwallet, for Axie, for Fuel Games in general. Yeah. Viktor, do you want to start? Like one?
Yeah. On our side, we like the challenges that currently we're facing is how do you build decentralized wallet for any type of blockchain? And if we think about current market is mostly focused on Ethereum, like all these dApps. But at the same time, there is different markets in like China, for example, where people use Neo to build different dApps. And we're trying to architect our system to support multiple blockchains that will allow us to, even connect to the EOS or different type of networks like Quantum that also have smart contracts. And so we're currently working on supporting different chains that will have that browser as well to interact. Or you can also use Trust to sign any type of transactions you need to the Bitcoin or any other chain. So that's kind of challenges we're currently facing. And it's not easy to design it easily because it requires to do lots of crypto stuff. Because like most of the companies that's out there building wallets, they usually have it where they use backend to sign all the transactions, get all the data, and it makes it easy to build something working. But at the same time, if you think long term, you need to make sure you build technology that's going to be scalable and it's not going to rely on your own servers to interact. And so that's my goal, to like make it like to actually design the architecture for the code, and it's really hard.
Cool. Alex, I think Axie is about to launch the battle system. We'll launch what's coming up soon.
Yeah, so we're just about to launch version 1 of our battle system. We're actually going to start alpha testing with some of our chancellors, I should say. So for those of you guys who joined the Discord, we have different kind of groups where we have a few players who have been exemplified as a really, really great community members. So we're giving them like a little bit of early access. Going to use them to kind of test, and then eventually beta, and then open beta. So we're going to have that for a long, long time. That's going to be on the mainnet. But later in July, the open beta is going to be released. Really, really looking forward to that. As I said, it's version 1. So when you fight, it's still going to cost a transaction fee. But once Loom scaling is implemented, we're going to do that immediately to avoid all the transaction fees. After that, later in August, September, about that, we're going to be releasing the terrarium feature that I talked about, the houses for the Axies, so you can actually start collecting them as well. So a lot of fun stuff are coming. We're looking into actually creating more of a universe around these characters. So at that, eventually they have multiple different kind of use cases. We're looking at different kind of games for them as well. So a lot of exciting things are happening.
Cool. Robbie, I think you guys are announcing something soon too, right?
Yeah. So we had our big announcement today, which is sort of our fundraising announcement, and also the release of Gods Unchained, which is our fully Unity sort of trading card game built on the blockchain, which will come out tonight Pacific time. And obviously the trailer sneak peek for you guys, tinyurl.com/Gods Unchained. And now I just feel like I'm shilling, but it's a cool trailer.
Cool. I think we let's actually take some questions. Let's see. There's like 8 questions. What's the number 1? Why are you guys rather develop on top of Ethereum other than other blockchains? That's one of the most voted questions.
I can take that. Actually, okay. I think it's a quite obvious answer actually, because that's where all the developers are creating things. Like we go where the developer community is. It's proven blockchain to work, super secure, and eventually maybe we're going to change, but we're always open to seeing where the community is pushing places. When it comes to the Ethereum developer community, that's really solid on Discord as well. So yeah, that's why we are choosing to build on there.
Yeah, and my answer would be Ethereum is fantastic. The main thing for us is it's ready right now, and while we love Ethereum, we're not Ethereum maximalists, we're sort of crypto maximalists. And we've had, in-depth chats with the Definity blockchain who are building out theirs and a few others. In particular, we have a few, annoyances with Ethereum. The main one probably be a secure source of randomness is either difficult or expensive or both. So yeah, I think Ethereum's awesome for now, and they're working on their layer 1 and layer 2 solutions. So hopefully it continues to improve too.
Yeah, I would just like to shoot in that if we see some tremendous change, something that's like coming out of nowhere, then of course we're going to react on that and we'll see what happens. I mean, binding yourself to one thing, as you said, being Ethereum, Bitcoin maximalist, whatever that is, it's not really what we're aiming for. We want to go where the development is happening, pretty much.
Yeah, and by development, usually people mean community of people who can help you to figure out any issues, and at the same time, tools. Tools is the critical part to actually build games. If you try to build game on Neo platform, you wouldn't find libraries that will allow you to actually build it, and then there is no tools to test it. So it's going to take you months in order to actually ship something working. Comparing with Ethereum, there's all these tools like Web3, they have really good support, and there's lots of questions on Stack Overflow that have been answered on how to work with it. So it makes it easy to work on things where you're just like getting started with.
Cool. And another top question is, how would you actually build a new crypto game? Do you guys want to, like, how will you go start?
I guess you are doing that actually, Robbie, building a new, or yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so I guess to answer that question, it depends on where you're coming from, what your expertise is, what your budget is. But the place I'd start first is with the economic design and picking a game which is made for crypto, because I don't think, particularly as of yet, all of them are. So obviously you'd want to look at a turn-based game or some sort of strategy game. And you'd also want to look for a game which has a really strong sense of identity attached to its assets, where they all feel quite like a token, like a valuable item you can possess. Because I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of them being the cornerstone around which you build this awesome gameplay experience. So in Axies, it's the monsters. In Etherbots, it's the ability to create millions of custom robots from parts from scratch. And in Gods Unchained, it's sort of these cards, which are, I think, naturally one of the most perfect things to put on the blockchain.
Yeah, I think card games are actually the perfect kind of fit for the blockchain, as you said. So I know actually the Loom guys are making their own card game as well. So I'm really excited to see where that is going. I think I like the Hearthstone as an example too, for a game that could actually have been great on the blockchain, even Magic the Gathering. So I mean, there are a lot of different kind of paths you can go down to. But I think what we are trying to do is to create an emotional attachment to our characters. And once you actually figure out that people care about them, I mean, that's when you can kind of start building the ecosystem around them, figure out, okay, what kind of game do I want to create? But yeah, it's similar to normal game design. You just have to have an idea and then figure out, okay, what is the main characters here? Can I actually monetize in any way? Are there, like, if you, I guess like Mario would be kind of hard to make it on the blockchain kind of, because it's just one character. You would need something a little bit more than just one main character. At least that's my opinion right now.
Viktor, you have any pointers?
I only have ideas for games, but I'm not working on them actively. So I think one idea would be really cool for gaming, to actually build a pet that you can take care of, right? You can actually have a character that you would need to feed and do different type of things in order to actually grow it. I think that's going to be really cool. I think one thing would be stimulating for users to actually take care of it. If you don't feed for like number of days, it would be just burned, so it's going to die. So you need to make sure you actually take care of it every day. And then you can buy different things on top of it. So I think it would be really interesting gameplay in general. But
yeah, actually, just to confirm, I can see some people are mentioning crypto Tamagotchi in the chat, I guess Michael. But yeah, Axie Infinity, that's the kind of the goal. We want to be a mix between CryptoKitties, Pokemon, and Tamagotchi pretty much. So you're going to be able to feed your Axies when you enter the game, put them to sleep, all that kind of stuff. And you will even get login bonuses eventually, or streaks if you log in good enough, or they get happier if you give them enough food and that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really fun game mechanic as well.
Cool. So since we're almost 3 minutes over time, but I guess it's so good to take one more question. I think this question is about, please discuss the topic of decentralized gaming. I guess this is an interesting question too. Like, what parts of the game will have to be sort of, you kind of have to, what's a trade-off you have to do? Like, some parts of it has to be decentralized, but how do you balance the gameplay in a way? So we'd love to hear about, from your point on, which parts are decentralized at the moment and which ones are maybe semi at the moment, and why you guys decide to do that.
Yeah, so I'll just very briefly talk. Etherbots was entirely decentralized. All the battling mechanics was on-chain. It made battling quite expensive, but it also enabled us to create very securely rewards for battling on-chain. On the other side of the spectrum, you can have games where you merely have cosmetic items which are stored on the blockchain, or you just have the items themselves stored on the blockchain and they're sort of read in by a game. They're just the source of truth. So you have all the benefits of guaranteed scarcity, minting, tradability, and like probabilities, but you don't have any of the encumbrances of making transactions to play the game. It just feels like a completely ordinary game apart from the thing powering it from behind. The ideal solution, and the one where we're working towards, is one which is powered by some sort of layer 1 or layer 2 solution, which means that you get the best of both worlds. It's entirely seamless like a normal game, but you also have the benefits of being able to create in-game rewards and have the entire system trustless. So you don't even have to trust us. That will keep the game mechanics the same.
Yeah, but when it comes to Axie Infinity, we have currently, the ownership is decentralized, so we can't actually, I should say, we can actually remove them right now. It's a possibility in the contract, but obviously that would remove all the trust in ourselves as a company. But it's, as I said in the beginning of the call here, actually, just to confirm, CryptoKitties can do that as well with their contract, so it's nothing unique here. But the thing is that we can't start from a super decentralized way where we are inflexible, where you can't make any changes. So you need to be able to make changes to, for example, change the artwork without people reacting on that, because sometimes, I mean, that's just the way it is when you're creating a game. So I don't like pigeonholing myself into anything, but eventually down the line, you need to change it so that, like I say, that this is the period, this is the area where we can make changes at the beginning. Then after 1 year, maybe it gets even smaller. 1 year it gets even smaller, and eventually it's going all to be really, really decentralized in the end, because that's what people are expecting.
Yeah, totally. And I think the assets management is the one that should be decentralized, definitely. The rest, okay, to be just like the gameplay itself could be running on its own plasma and doing lots of transactions that don't really matter, as long as you actually commit something where you want to say, I want to own this item, or you want to sell it or trade it. So I think the guys already covered this part.
Cool. We're 6 minutes over time, but thank you, Viktor. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Robbie. This has been great. I guess this kind of concludes the very first day for now. So, but yeah, thank you, everyone. Hope everyone enjoys this chat. And then, Ed, do you want to quickly finish up the thing?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, panelists, for being here today. It was an incredible day of learning for everyone here at Hack Summit. I really admire everyone who stayed throughout the entire day with us and got to learn everything. I hope it was useful for you. It was great for me. I learned a lot. And it was just an incredible experience learning about blockchain together. So hopefully you can join us for day 2 and 3 as well. Day 2 happening tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific. We're going to be kicking off things with the lead maintainer of Monero, Ricardo Fluffy Pony Spagni. And for those of you who don't know who Fluffy Pony is, he's an incredibly well-renowned developer leader. I would consider him to be top 5 in the crypto ecosystem in terms of the impact and the influence that he has, and his leadership capability among developers and engineers. So we're going to learn a whole lot about him and his new project at Tari, as well as what's going on with Monero and this general advice for engineers around the world. And we're going to have an action-packed day beyond that as well. So hopefully everyone can be there to join us. Thanks again for being here with us at Hack Summit. Your attendance here made a difference today in terms of you helping the speakers, in terms of them getting the word out about their projects. And if you learned something and you got value today, please feel free to click the donate button at the bottom of your screen. You'll be helping out important charities all around the world that celebrate diversity in software development, as well as free software for everyone. So thank you again for being here, and good night, speakers. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for having